How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. What an insane time.
Yes.
Like, can you believe this? Like, wow.
No, I can't.
I keep looking around. I'm like, what happened?
Right. How did we get to January already? That's the other
I
thing.
know. I know. Like, I just did that concert. I just
Right.
thought, wait, it was a year ago.
It was February.
So crazy. How have you been? How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
It's just like right now, I don't know about you, but like there's no routine. There's like no normal week.
Yes.
It's just like every week is different and bizarre and new challenges and new good things come up and it's just like always it feels like
Always
I'm always figuring things out. Like I don't have it ever.
right. I just
You
saw
know?
something today that said maybe Bill Murray was onto something and predicting the future with Groundhog's Day. Because
Yeah, exactly. No,
it's like everything is
seriously.
so different but the same, and it's been really wild.
So wild. And I'm so glad that you're doing this. Like,
Yes.
what a great way to like spend your time and like create something new.
Yes, and I've been meeting some great new people. Wesley Hamilton, he was on an episode.
Amazing.
Um, so it was really like a good time for me to start this because a lot of people were they had a lot of free time.
Right.
Fortunately for me, but unfortunate for for everybody else.
Right.
But
Like people are gonna say yes right now.
yes, yeah. So it
It's
was
great.
really beneficial for me to start this now. So I can't thank you enough for this. I really
Oh,
appreciate this.
of
I'm
course. I'm
I'm
so
so
glad that I
excited.
can do it and that you are the one that's creating it because I do lots of podcast interview kinds of things, but it's different when you get to talk about, not that this is all about disability, but when you get to talk about disability with someone who has a closer perspective or a full perspective on it versus
Right.
somebody who you feel like sometimes you're educating.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really and that's the one thing I wanted to bring to the podcasting world because it's very much an untapped area of talking about people with disabilities and how how life affects them and how how we get around in the world. And it's just something that I really wanted to start because I was doing awareness presentations in schools, but because of COVID, I had to stop. So I'm like, how can I still get my message out to the world?
Well,
And
you're
this,
amazing. This
yeah,
is so
yeah. So
great.
this, well, thank you. So this has
So
been
great.
really, really great to, to be able to do this. So again, thank you so much for
Yeah.
this opportunity. I appreciate it. And
Of course.
I won't take up a lot of your time, I promise.
No, don't worry.
So, everybody, please welcome my guest, Ali Stroker, to the OurView Podcast. Ali is an actress, a model, a Tony Award winner, and someone I have been able to meet a few times now and communicate with you online and through email. And so I'm very happy and honored to have you on today. And thank you
Thank
for your
you for
time.
having me.
So
Thank you.
I gave that introduction with information that most people would know about you if they Google your name. What are some other things that you could tell the world about who Ali Stroker is?
I love this question because, uh, in my professional career, I have been given titles and names and labels, and I feel so fortunate that all of those have been very positive. Uh, but I always go back to who am I as a person?
Right.
Who am I and who is Allie, outside of my career? And first and foremost, I am a Jersey girl. I grew up in Jersey. I love the Jersey Shore. I love the culture of people from Jersey. There's something just so specific about it. For those of you who are not from Jersey, think like Sopranos, but not as dramatic or violent. Just expressive people. And I am a family person. I am so lucky. I grew up with such a great family, and my dad always referred to our family as a team. He was a coach and a sports guy, and so I grew up with a lot of that vocabulary and a lot of that messaging around sports and teams and what that means. And so now as an adult, my family, my fiance, my friends are my team. And I couldn't do what I do without them. So I also love to cook. I love to shop. And I love to sing. We didn't talk about that too much in sort of my intro because as an actor, sort of my singing goes along with that. But I love to sing. Singing for me has been more than something I do, for a living or in my career. Singing has been a way to express myself and a way to heal myself and know myself. And I started to sing when I was 7 years old, and the first time I sang in front of people, I had this unbelievable experience of feeling complete freedom, which living with a disability, I am in a wheelchair, I have a spinal cord injury. Living in a chair, you have a very specific relationship to um, freedom and what
Hmm.
that means. And when I sing, I am able to run and jump and slide, and there is no limitation around my voice. And so singing is one of my favorite things to do because I feel completely liberated.
Wow, that gave me chills because I have, which segues perfectly into my next discussion topic, which is Oklahoma, the great Broadway show in which you won a Tony Award, being the first wheelchair user to win a Tony Award, and that was 2019, correct?
Yes.
Um, yeah, so seeing you again, thank you for the experience I had when I came to see Oklahoma. You met myself and two people who won a fundraising auction item to see Oklahoma in New York, and you did a meet and greet with us before the show, which was something I still talk about to this day. But to
So sweet.
see and for those of you who know me and who have listened to the podcast, I'm also a wheelchair user. And to see you in Oklahoma and the way that they incorporated your chair into the different scenes, the different choreography. The one thing I remember is I forget the name of the song, but the people are stomping their feet and you were like banging your chair up and down, like along with them. I was amazed by it. It was something that really, after I saw that it was June, it was the week before you won the Tony Award, actually, when I saw it.
Oh my
or yeah,
gosh.
or it might have been the night before, I think, maybe. And just to see that, I can't tell you what a fire that lit under me for just like anything is possible, because the way they effortlessly incorporated you being a wheelchair user to where it just wasn't an issue. One of your leading actors was, sitting on your lap at one of the in one of the scenes, and where you would normally see the woman sitting on the guy's lap. It was just, I can't say any negative things about that show. It was just really amazing as a wheelchair user um, to see the way that you played that role, and being a wheelchair user as the object of someone's affection is something that you don't see in movies, in books, or anything like that. So it was really uh, enlightening for me, and just to to push harder to reach my goals. And so I thank you for for doing that role and playing that role. And it was just can you just talk about what that experience was like for you, being on stage? And I know you were in other shows as well, but can you just talk about what that's like?
Yes, definitely. By the way, you're all probably listening to this, but as Arthur was saying all that, I'm just nodding my head like over and over again because what he's talking about is the thing that I hope people do recognize in that having a disability, and I'll speak specifically on my experience and the way that I use it in my work, I have always felt like it's an opportunity to use my disability in my acting, in choreography, in the character I'm playing. Because my disability is not something that is invisible. So everyone sees it, it's in the room. So I have always felt like, as an artist and as an actor, it's more powerful to use it than ignore it. And so, two of the things that I want to touch on that you sort of mentioned that I've never really talked about anywhere is the difference between when I use it for the storyline and the difference between when I hope that it elevates the story in a way that doesn't need to be explained or even shown. And
And now you have me
the
shaking
first,
my head.
yeah, exactly right. So the first part about it is that I do a lot of translating in my work. And what I mean by translation is that um, all of the directors I've ever worked with are able bodied, and all of the choreographers I have ever worked with in musical theater have been able bodied. So usually I take their vision and I translate it onto my body and my chair. And so that's one way that this sort of becomes a part of the show. And the other part is that, specifically in Oklahoma, I just thought there was such an opportunity to use my chair in these romantic relationships that I had. Because from my own experience, I know, and I've had the experience to know that my wheelchair is a part of the relationship. Like it's not something you take out on the weekends. Like
Right.
it's always a part of it. So I had two romantic relationships in Oklahoma. And one of them is with Allie Hackham, and one of them is with Will Parker. And with Allie Hackham, I sat on his lap. And with Will Parker, he always sat on my lap. And I just thought this was such a fun dynamic that was played in that some relationships that you're in, the physical vocabulary looks one way, and then in other relationships it looks another way, and it says so much about the relationship. And I also feel like in casting an actress in a chair or casting me in this character, it gave Ado Annie some more depth because Ado Annie is the kind of character, and her theme song is I Can't Say No. She is someone who says yes to life. She is somebody who asks questions, who is curious, who is impulsive. And I think that a lot of the world has a idea of what it means to be disabled. And I think Ado Annie and who she is flips that on its head.
She definitely
That
did.
you know what I mean? That being in a chair doesn't mean that you're hesitant or that you're tentative. Being in a chair,
Yes.
you can be impulsive and say yes, and you know, be outspoken. And that's where I feel like having a disability and not needing to use it or comment on it or talk about it, but it just heightens and deepens the story. I look at these as opportunities to make art, make life richer.
I totally agree with everything you just said. And um to to flip to I saw you were in Take a Look at This Heart, and I believe it was on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
And just the way that they explored, it's a documentary about exploring relationships in people or for people who have disabilities. And you know, you were in that, and I think that documentary is a great thing as well, because it really again, it breaks down those stereotypes of what people think about those who have disabilities, that, we may not want to be in relationships, or we can't be in relationships, or, we're not sexual beings, or things like that. So I really appreciated that movie as well, to see you and the others who participated in the documentary, to help, change. And as I like to say in, with my podcast, to change the tone of conversation about those who have disabilities, because that's exactly what I think Ado Annie did, and also, this documentary, and the great Christmas movie, the first Christmas movie I watched on Lifetime that you were just in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and to the Christmas movie, which was just on a few weeks ago, the one part that struck me was, I forget her name, but the character who played the daughter. Um,
The characters, the actress
the
name is
actress, yeah.
Malia, and
Okay.
the character's name is Casey. Casey.
Yes. So when Casey came to you to ask you for advice, I just thought that was really, I thought it was just really cool. And it was just so innocent, because a lot of times, as a person with a disability, kids are afraid of wheelchairs and afraid of the crutches that people use. And, but she saw something in you that she just came right up to you. And I think it was about writing or something like that, asking you, she knew you were a writer. So it was just like,
Yeah.
hey, I like writing too. So, can you help me with this? I'm kind of stuck.
I love that you pointed out that moment, Arthur, and it's been so beautiful to talk to people about this Christmas movie and the parts that hit them, because it's the first time I've ever seen a movie that is like a rom-com Christmas
Hmm.
movie. And the lead character is in a chair, and it's not about them being in a chair. And again, the things that we got to just experience with this character for 2 hours or an hour and a half, if you're
Hmm.
fast forwarding commercials or not. But, you know, like I was interviewed by somebody who had a disability, and they were like, I just was crazy for when you were driving and they showed the hand gears. Like, I've never seen that. And just these little things that are a part of our everyday life, that there are not nearly enough narratives out there about the disabled community that
Right.
don't have to do with disability. And we are such a rich community. We are such a deep community. We are a fierce community. We are a um, productive community. We are a community that understands so deeply what it's like to feel on the outside.
Hmm.
And I want narratives where we are on the inside, because I am on the inside of my own life. But to the world, they still see disability, like you were saying. Like, sometimes kids are afraid to come up to people in chairs. Like, sometimes people act awkward when I am approaching a door or coming into a restaurant and going to sit down at a at a table. These little moments turn into not so little moments for us in our lives, because we feel maybe uncomfortable or maybe on the outside. And so the more we can create, and this is like a huge part of what drives me every single day in my life, is to create more and more opportunity for people who don't have disabilities and people who do have disabilities. They see disability represented authentically and differently than what we have seen in the past.
Yes, the authentic part is so important. It's just like that whole movie was just great, because yeah, I noticed too that they did show the hand controls, and I saw you do another interview that said that you used your actual car. So like that was cool
Yeah,
to hear.
like the moment when I like transfer into bed. Like, so many times in work that I've done, we would like skip those parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, 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 we have to do this. Not as a tutorial and not as an educational moment, but to allow people to take the time with us to be a part of this part of the story. Does
Yeah,
that make
to see
sense?
it happen. It makes so much sense. And I loved the opening scene where they just showed you in a chair. Like, okay,
Yes.
here it is. Because a lot of times or oftentimes you might see, you know, 10 or 15 minutes into the movie or to the show, you realize the person's in a wheelchair because they do the chest up shots or something like that.
Mhm.
They came in straight from the door, like, okay, she's she's in a chair
And
and
this chair is a part of the story. Like
right,
you're in,
right.
like you guys are on this ride. Like
Yeah,
get on the ride,
right.
right?
Here it is,
And
and here's where we're going.
yeah, and I was so nervous, Arthur, for that to come out because
Oh, wow.
I was nervous about like how people were going to receive it. You know, anytime you put something out that you care
Right,
about, you're like, oh my God, is this gonna be good? Are people
right.
going to respond? Are people gonna feel weird about it? And the people that I heard from, it was just such a positive response.
It was.
And I just am so grateful for that opportunity. And I want to just create more and more narratives around real life, moments in life that no matter what, Arthur, like my chair is a part of it. So
Right.
like
It's not
it's
going
always
anywhere.
gonna
And
be no, and it's always gonna be represented. And I have just always felt like it's one of my gifts. It's one of my
hmm
superpowers. It makes me different. It makes me unique. I see the world and you know, I perceive the world differently because of this thing that's a part of my life. And I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky to have that.
yes, and I think I'll speak for myself and many others. We are so lucky that you are doing this. And as I said, like seeing Oklahoma, you really just like inspired me just to do more. And like you said, in my world and my friends and family, it's like I'm a part of that. But there's so many other people who don't get to experience me and others who have disabilities. So, for you to have the opportunity to be on a stage, a Broadway stage, and share this for as long as you did with Oklahoma and your other shows that you were in is just, incredible to see and was a great, incredible experience. And then
Thank
another time that I got to meet you, and you mentioned your dad earlier. Please tell him I said hello because I
I
met him.
will.
My mom and I, before the world shut down in March, my mom and I came to New York City to see your one woman show at Lincoln Center. And my mom says hello, by the way. And
Tell her I say
she,
hi.
yeah, you brought us both to tears when you were singing Natural Woman. It was just, again, like you said, when you sing, like you're free. And it's just, you really, the whole show was incredible. But to hear you sing Natural Woman, it was just like, wow. Like it really was like you really just put everything in it. And I could really identify with, hearing you say now that you're free when you sing of everything. Like that was really the moment where I just really saw, like, yeah, you were free. Like it didn't matter that you were in a wheelchair. You just put your everything into that song and the whole show. So
Thank Thank you so
yes,
much. Thank you for coming. Like, I
you're
can't,
welcome.
I don't even know how to always articulate like how grateful I am for people like you and for the disabled community who just has like supported me so much. And I'll tell you, Arthur, like when I began performing, I was so scared. I was so scared of, like how how will people see me? How
hmm
will they perceive me, right? As an actor, it's something, or maybe even just as a human being, we think about
Right.
that. And I just feel so loved and so seen. I
hmm
wrote about this a little bit on social media, but I feel so seen And I am so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful to you for making the effort to support me in the things that I want to share with the world. Like those concerts, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm always just like, I hope someone shows up other than my mom. Like, I still am like scared, right? Like, it's just normal. But what is so cool is to see the people that do, and the
Hmm.
people and how they are impacted. And I have more confidence now, even though I still get scared because I'm human, but I have confidence now that what I do and what I put out into the world is needed, and hopefully is the beginning of more and more and more of people who feel different in the world coming forward and sharing their truth.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
you're
That
doing.
is,
I mean, you're
yes.
doing that, you're doing that right now. You're like, okay, first of all, like the pandemic, like is this huge challenge for everyone. And
Right.
I've seen over and over again, so many of my friends with disabilities have like been thriving because they're like,
Yes.
oh, a challenge, got it.
Right.
Like normal, check, got this. But to be what you're doing is serving the world in a way, and you never know who's going to hear this and who's going to listen, but you're putting it out, and that's
Absolutely.
all that matters. And the other thing I wanted to touch on when you were talking about natural woman is this concept that I've been talking to my sister a lot about. My sister is a dietitian and does this specific sort of form of coaching called intuitive eating, and it's around like healing your relationship with your body and food. And
Oh, wow.
when she started doing it and teaching it, I was like, I want to be in on this. Like, I want to understand this. I want to look into this and how it applies to me, because I don't feel like I necessarily fit into the normal mainstream health culture.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that when you mentioned natural woman that I was thinking about is this concept of normal.
Mm.
Like, what is normal? And when I see myself in the mirror, I look normal to me. Like I look
Yes.
totally normal. Like this has been me always. Like I like my chair, like the way I sit, the like everything about me feels normal because it's me. But we have created in the world this thing that we think is normal. And singing Natural Woman, like part of what I connect to in that song is that I am the way I was always meant to be. And Natural Woman is also about someone else who makes you feel that way. And I have
Right.
this beautiful, amazing relationship with my fiance, and we sang together in that concert, and he makes me feel so powerful and like a queen and just so good about myself and myself in a relationship. But as to sing Natural Woman, which is sort of an anthem, and the way that I think a lot of people interpret it is it's about women.
Hmm.
And to unpack a little bit like what it means to be normal and natural in your life and in this lifetime. And I think that's part of what happens when I sing it is I sort of like transcend into a different place that's not just like on the earth, like it feels like spiritual. And that's another
Yes.
thing that singing like brings to me is this like spirituality that I am greater than the body I was given, that I
Hmm.
am my spirit is bigger than that. And thank you for what you said about Natural Woman. And that song is it's just very important to me. And when I sing it, it's more than singing a song. It's like this kind of full spiritual experience.
Yeah. And I know from my mom and I, that's exactly what we got from
Mhm.
it. I could
Yeah.
definitely, definitely, we got that from that. So it's
Good.
really, so you're definitely putting out there, and people are receiving it for sure.
Thank
Um,
you.
I think for the next, uh, topic of discussion, I would you've taken on New York City as a wheelchair user.
Mhm.
And New York City is one of my favorite places. I love a Broadway show. I love just going there for concerts. Madison Square Garden is one of the few places that actually has front row floor seating for accessible seats.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so I love New York City. Have, not much negative to say about it except for the accessibility of New York City.
Yeah. Yeah.
which can be, quite a hassle. I was in Brooklyn one time with my mom and I took the train into Manhattan. Um, so going to New York, elevators fine. Came
Yeah.
back to Brooklyn, got off at the same stop I got on. There's no elevator on that side of the platform.
What?
Yeah.
It is shocking to me to hear these stories. I'm like,
I'm looking for a trap door or something. Like, is the elevator going to act like, do I push a brick and the wall opens, or and they're like, oh no, you have to go up 3 more stops for an elevator, and then you can either get on a bus, because all the buses have ramps, or if it's nice outside, you can wheel. And so yeah, I have my own accessible stories of New York
I mean,
City.
just like a circus, right? Like it's a
Yes.
true circus.
Yes.
Accessibility, in general,
Hmm.
oftentimes feels like a circus, but specifically in New York City, it's the only way I can really describe it is it's the most unavailable place for accessibility because they may have an elevator at the stop you're going to, and it
Right.
may not be working.
Right. That's the other
It's
thing.
literally it's like being in Vegas. It's just like gambling. You're just like gambling. Like, okay, like crossing my fingers for black, like or
Right.
red or whatever. Like
Hmm.
you just like you never know if something is gonna happen or not. It's like
Right.
chance. It feels like chance. And that's um uh for me unacceptable.
Hmm.
um However, I at this point in my life don't put myself in those positions, but I also have the luxury of not having to. So I drive myself
Right.
or I take a car, depending on where I'm going, because of this experience that you just shared.
Hmm.
That, physically, and I think you can understand this, Arthur, like living your life in a chair and living your life with a disability is work, is physical work. It is a physical
Yes.
workout every day. And
Every day.
so to experience these moments where what basically happens is the world says, no, you can't move through this part of the world. That is so frustrating to me, and I know it well, right? Like I have a relationship with that frustration of like accessibility, like there being a lift and no one knows where the key is and everyone's like scrambling and all of a sudden you're like, what am I even doing here?
Right.
Like what is happening? And everyone's just making a fool of themselves because they're all nervous because they don't want to mess up.
Hmm.
But there's been no time or attention to make sure that these things work. And so I don't put myself in those situations, but
Right.
that is a luxury. That is a privilege because most of my friends with disabilities do rely on public accessibility.
Right.
And so as we move forward in the future, I call myself an advocate, but I am not one of those people who is, sitting in on these board meetings and working with the city of New York and working with, the governor and the mayor. I'm not one of those people, and I'm not going to say that I am or pretend that I am.
Hmm.
I speak all the time on behalf of our community. I talk about what's important. I talk about accessibility, but that's not specifically something that I do. However, to move into 2021 and to still not have the subways accessible is astonishing.
Yes,
It's astonishing.
it
It's
is.
astonishing.
It
And
really is.
you know, for you to share that story, like it makes me nauseous because
Hmm.
I'm like, you have the right to move through this world. That is what we created when we created the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Right.
However, it's not being enforced.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
that's the tough part to realize, as you said, going into 2021, that these things still exist. That not something as simple as there not every taxi cab is accessible in New York City. I know it can cost a whole lot of money, but the lack of accessible taxi cabs
that's
is
what I'm, yeah,
incredible.
yeah. And for you, you should feel good about the way you move through the world,
Right.
whether you have a disability or not. And anybody who's listening to this right now, for somebody with a disability, when they are met with accessibility that is not working, it is a punch to the gut
Hmm.
because that is our only option. We don't have the option of taking the stairs when the escalator is broken or when the elevator is broken. We
Right.
don't have those backups. So it puts us in a position that is not fair to then have to put um, our freedom, our movement in the hands of usually a stranger.
Hmm.
And again, as a grown ass adult, no,
Right.
no, I don't want to be carried. I don't want somebody picking up my wheelchair and having it crash to the ground because they don't know how to hold it. I don't
Yeah.
want that. That's not what I want for my life.
Yeah.
But
This is a challenge I do not accept. Like that.
correct.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's acceptable.
Exactly.
I don't think that you should have to trade your time to take the subway three more stops and then try to figure out how to get back to the stop you were originally trying to get to
Right.
because for whatever reason somebody who is definitely not disabled only put the elevator on one side.
On the one side. Hmm.
So, this is a call, anybody again listening, a call to anyone who is listening who owns a restaurant, who owns a shop, who owns anywhere that you are inviting the public. Create accessibility that works. Please. We need you. We need you to speak up to your neighbors who
Hmm.
have restaurants with one stair to get in out in the boroughs. I want to go to those restaurants too. I want to go get a coffee as well at that coffee shop that's so cute but has two steps to get into.
Right.
You know
And
what I'm saying? And this is
yeah.
like this is also something that I experienced in my career, Arthur, that like, you know, a lot of performance spaces are not accessible backstage.
Right.
They're accessible to patrons because they want the patrons' money,
Right.
but how about for the people that they're hiring? And not just people who have to get on stage. How about sound engineers and lighting designers and crew people? Like this accessibility thing is so huge and it's so important. And the only way it will happen is if people other than people with disabilities are also speaking up about it and insisting upon it.
Right.
Or at least that's what I can see. We need you, whoever you are listening right now.
Yeah, because as people with disabilities, we've been talking about it for our whole lives, and our families and friends who we go out with, they are supporters of like, hey, let's make this change too. But we need everybody. This is a conversation for everybody to be a part of, and uh, and a lot of times they're easy fixes. that where easy
Yeah.
things, little things can be done. And like you said, that one restaurant that has the one step, that coffee shop that has the one step, I'm sure there's something that can easily be done to make it, accessible for everybody to get in.
And in a moment's notice, it could be you.
Hmm.
It could be you who needs that ramp. It could be your daughter, your son, your mother, your sister, your brother, your cousin who needs it. And yeah, there needs to be a true movement in New York City about getting that together.
Hmm.
It's not together.
Yes. So,
It's a mess. It's a mess.
so as you said, for anyone listening, call me and reach out to me, and I will gladly,
Yeah,
be a part of this change that needs to happen. It's really, it's about time. It's really about time. It's 2021, and
it
we,
is time. It
and
is
we,
time.
yeah.
Like what, and then there's also like the conversation around certain buildings. For those of you who don't know, in the Americans with Disabilities Act, there are certain buildings, if they're built before a certain period, they're considered historical, and they
Right.
don't have to make changes to that historical building to make it accessible. And I am pulling this directly from my fiance, so I'm going to give him credit. This is David Perlow, my fiance, who says this. What side of history do you want to be on?
Hmm.
Like, be on the right side of history. And even if it's a historical building, create accessibility so that everyone now in
Can
the
say it.
future has access to it.
Hmm.
Because back then, the same thing was going on.
Right. Right.
So get on the right side of history.
Yeah.
Accessibility is a big issue, and it has to do with equality. Like, do you have equal access to the world, to your world?
Yeah.
And living in New York City for as long as I have, it's not great. It's not great. I mean, who I am and what I do, I don't harp on those moments of
Right.
inaccessibility because it on the daily it is too painful to like take it on every day.
Hmm.
And I also have like the ability to like lift up the front wheels of my wheelchair and get like a boost into a shop if it has one store. However, so many of my friends don't have that. They don't have
Right.
that ability. They have their power chairs, which give them their freedom. And if they have the ability to get out of their house and go for a push, a stroll around their neighborhood, and they want to go get a slice of pizza, and that pizza place has one stair to get in, they can't do what they want to do. That's
Right.
not fair. That's not fair for
It is.
me.
It's very important, and it needs to be said out loud because it's, sometimes it's like the silent struggle for us, that, okay, well, we'll just suck it up and, we'll go someplace else. And, but and I always say, I don't want anything extra. I just want access to what everybody else has.
That's what I'm saying. And
Yeah. The
for
equality
anybody
part
who,
of it.
yeah, and for anyone who is confused that wheelchair, handicap, accessible access is special treatment, you are confused. It is
Hmm.
not. It is just equal access. And also, let's get those ramps and those accessible entrances away from the trash room, away
Yes.
from the dumpsters. That doesn't make
Hmm.
me feel that doesn't make me feel good to have to
Right.
come in by the trash.
And through your
Clean it
kitchen
up.
and all of
Get
that.
a
Yeah.
red get a red carpet for
Hmm.
that area. Clean it up. Make it feel good. Make your patrons who have disabilities who have to come in another entrance, which is not always preferred. I'd rather come in with everybody else. But if I
Right.
do have to go in the back, please don't make me go through the trash room.
Hmm.
Please, please. Like, like if I'm about to go into, I had this experience at a really, really expensive restaurant in New York, and we had to go down the trash like area to get in.
Oh.
And then I went on to like pay $200 at dinner. And it was like this doesn't make sense. Like, I should be getting free dinner. No,
Right.
like, this is not right. Like, I'm all dressed up. I feel good. And I'm just speaking up on these things because for so long, Arthur, I made excuses and I brushed it off.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm grown up. This is my life. This is my world. Nothing's changing as far as my ability to get into an inaccessible restaurant, store, whatever.
Right.
And so I'm asking for people that have these public spaces and that are opening their spaces and their restaurants and their stores and their business. There are a lot of disabled people out there who want to give you business. There are
Mm-hmm.
a lot. One
Yeah.
in four
Yeah.
Americans are disabled.
Right. We're out here. We are out here and ready.
We're
And
out here.
we're out here and we're ready to spend money. Exactly.
Exactly.
So really, really quick before I let you go, can you please um, tell us what you have coming up that people have to look forward to? I am excited. I saw you on the third hour of Good Morning America last week, so I know what's coming up. But can you
Yeah.
please share with the listeners what you have coming up in 2021?
Yes. So in 2021, I'm very excited. We were able to announce last day of 2020
Yes.
that my I have a collaborator named Stacy Davidowitz, and we wrote a book called The
Yay.
Chance to Fly. And it's a book for teenagers, but I kind of feel like it's a book for everyone. But I
Mhm.
specifically wanted to write for that age group because I needed this book when I was that age.
Mm.
Um, I had a really hard time in middle school, and so I wanted this book to be for kids that age. And it's a book that pulls from a lot of stories that happened in my life around getting into theater. And it's about a character named Nat Beacon who moves to New Jersey from California and is introduced to a theater group called Broadway Bounders and auditions for their summer musical, Wicked.
Oh.
And she meets all these new friends and has this new group, and she has her first crush, and she is like very much based on me. And she is faced with challenges and problems, and we talk about moments that were so vulnerable that I felt when I was that age, and we like talk about them in the book, and we like articulate them. And like, I hope that those moments are moments that make people feel less alone. And, without like being corny or like pushing too hard in this direction, but like, my motto is turning your limitations into opportunities because it's what I see has happened in my life, that my limitations have been opportunities. And this book does that, and it shows a bunch of different characters turning their limitations into their opportunities. And I think right now, especially with the current state of the world, that sort of mantra and outlook and motto is helpful because it's not just about having a disability. Right now, we're all
Going
we all
through.
have limitations. Like,
Yeah,
we're
we're
not
all
able
going
to
through
be
something.
together. We're all going through something. Every single
Hmm.
person. Um, if you're listening right now, like, you might be going through something really, really hard, and you may not see the opportunity right now. It doesn't always show up right away. But I this book is also about community and having a group of people that believe in you and are behind you. And I think that's such an important, a really, really important value right now, that we value community, that we value each other.
Yeah.
and what we can give each other right now, because you and I have been talking for like almost an hour and I feel like I'm in the room with you. Like, you
Right.
know, we, you know, we do have these opportunities right now. And so I'm really excited for the chance to fly to come out. It'll be out in April.
Yes.
It's on pre-order now. You can pre-order it. It's the first time I've ever written a book. So again, I am terrified. However, really excited because it's something new. And it's something for people who I hope, you know, find like relief in the book, in the journey that our character takes. And it's funny too, Arthur. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot of funny, fun parts to it. And it's light and it's also really authentic and real.
Yeah.
And
It
that's
goes.
what I want to put out in the world. So I'm really excited about this book coming out this year, 2021. And I hope, you know, I can't talk about a lot of other stuff because
Right.
we have no idea if it's going to happen this year or not. But be on the lookout. I am going to be doing a virtual concert soon that will be coming out. I don't know when you're putting this out, so you may have to cut this part out. But
Well, this will be
it's
out on the 15th, so in a couple
of
weeks.
January.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Let me look. Well, I'm not sure if it's going to be out, but it's a virtual concert with Keene University.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, so and it'll be you can, if you buy a ticket, you have access to it for a week.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a bunch of different showings, so it's cool.
Oh,
So it's like you know, if you're not available one night, you could watch it another night. So I'm going to be
yeah.
recording that very safely next week,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So just trying to find opportunities to bring good stuff to my people,
Yes.
and yeah, and I have a really positive feeling about this year, that things are going to be difficult but also really really wonderful, and that we are going to be get opportunities to come back together in person.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And whenever we are allowed to be back in person and you're doing a live show with an audience, I will make sure I'm there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Yes. So to just wrap up this interview, can you just share one or two things that you would want the world to know about those who live with disabilities? I know
Um,
we've talked about so much already, but can you just add one more thing?
I will add that people with disabilities have limitations, and with those limitations come other superpowers, come really, really deep, beautiful other skills. And I I challenge the world, I challenge people who don't have disabilities to find those things in people with disabilities, because there is a genius that comes along with living with one. And I guess that's one thing. And then the other thing is just about um, I used to talk about this in schools, but a lot of my life, people have asked me, like, why are you in a wheelchair? Or, like, what's wrong with you? Sort of questions like that.
Mhm.
And I, um, because I have a platform to speak about this, I speak about how much more interesting the conversation would be if people asked, what's your story?
Right.
And in that, you get to share whatever you want. You don't have to feel pressured to talk about some specific part of your disability.
Right.
And for the person who's asking the question, you find out so much more about this person because they are sharing what they want
Hmm.
you to know. And, you know, sometimes people feel like their disability is private that day. And
Right.
it does change. That's
It
also
does.
true. Like some days I'm like, I'm an open book, like ask me anything. And then there are other days that are like, no, I don't. I don't want to share
Right.
this thing today because this thing today is hard for me and I don't have that to give. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
language. So instead of asking somebody why they're disabled, what kind of disability they have, what's wrong with them, I prefer, and I think it leads to a kind of a more interesting, deeper conversation when you ask somebody what their story is.
Hmm. I love that. And I think it's, and that's why I always ask my guests to introduce themselves.
Yes.
Because, like I said, people can Google your name and they can find out everything they want to know about your career and what you've done, the movies and the shows you've been in. But who do you say you are? And what it came down to is, your family. Like it's, your family and your love of singing. And it's so many, there's so many different parts of our stories that go beyond our disability diagnosis and the wheelchair user part of us. So that's another reason why I do love creating this podcast, because it does get a chance to for people to share their stories and what parts of their story they want to share. And again, I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity to speak with you. Thank you just for always, the two times I have been in your presence. You are just always so kind to me. I appreciate you for that. Please tell your dad and David I said hello. I
Thank you.
had a
I
chance to
will,
meet them.
and the feeling is mutual. Arthur, thank you for your generosity and for your, for what you do in the world, and all of the people that you're wanting to help, and the positivity that you're putting out there. We're on the same team in that way for sure.
Yes.
And I'm so glad we got to do this at the beginning of 2021.
Yes, yes, it's such a great way to kick off the year. I'm so excited for this episode to be out. And just thank you again for your time. I appreciate you so much. And as I said, I will definitely be seeing you when you do the live show again in person. I will be in the audience,
Thank
most
you,
likely with my
Arthur.
mom, because she really just enjoys you as well. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you
Thank you.
again.
Stay
And
safe, be
yes,
well, keep doing what you're doing, and please let me know when this is out so I can share it.
so.
Amazing, Arthur. Thank you so much. And congratulations on your new podcast. This is so
Thank you
cool.
so much. Thank you. And I will be looking forward to your book and all that is to come for you in 2021. So have a great day. And thanks again so much.
Thank you. Talk to you
All right.
soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.